What's up, everybody? This is MCJ Network, and today I will be decoding the King Arthur movie, Legend of the Sword, that just recently came out. And the reason why I want to decode this movie is because of its high level of force content and magical, metaphysical content that you know that I'm about in the movie. And what goes on in the movie is we begin the movie starting off with we learn that the mages and mankind actually lived in harmony for such amount of time, and then there was a group consisting of Mordred and Vortican. They decide to get together and take over, pretty much gain power and take over the world. You know, so Mordred and his group just go around pretty much the country destroying everybody, and what is the last stronghold is left is Camelot. So the movie come on, and we see this battle between Mordred and Uther Pendragon, who is um, uh, the king of Camelot at this time, and he's holding Excalibur. Excalibur is pretty much the legendary holy sword that was crafted from this wise mage's magical staff. And what happens next is Mordred decides to use this staff for evil purposes, opens the dark dimension, and unleashes these entities from this realm, right? And what happens is when he does this, he uses these beings to start his war, for the most part. Merlin then steals the staff and he crafts it into Excalibur. He then passes this sword on to the Lady of the Lake, who then passes it on and binds it to the Pendragon bloodline. So Uther, as far as I know, is the first person to get the sword Excalibur. Now, like I said at the beginning of the movie, back to the war, they are getting ready to attack Camelot. And what happens is they are overwhelmingly just suppressing Camelot at this point. And then Uther gives the crown to Vortigern, and he said holds it steady, which basically means that hold the crown. He holds the crown, the consciousness of this particular kingdom. That's what being a king is all about. So he goes on to draw Excalibur, and then he goes and fight. He goes off to fight Mordred, and then him and his soldiers go to war with them, and he gets in there, and when he gets in there, he activates the power of Excalibur, and he's wise enough not to kill Mordred right away, but to destroy the source of power that he was using to channel his magical energies, which was a wise decision. I think it was like an orb or something that he was using. Anyway, when he destroyed the orb, the mind control that he was using to control these entities, it deactivated, and they were elephant-looking beings. These elephant-looking beings started shaking them off, shaking these beings off. Now, I want to note that Mordred had this source of power, which was pyramidal, which that represents the all-seeing eye of his power. When he destroyed this orb, then everything just fell apart, and they was no longer able to control this animal, and they literally shook they was pretty much sitting in houses on top of them. They shook those houses off of them. After he destroyed the orb, he then killed Mordred and his friends, and there was a victory for Camelot. Now we get into the meat of everything. After he defeat them, Vortigern, to cover himself, decides to go around slaughtering as many mages as possible, just in case they knew that he had something to do with this plot to destroy and take over the country and possibly the world at this time. Next, what happens is we see them sitting at the round table, and I forget the dude's name, but he was arguing for the mages, and he later on becomes the leader of the resistance. What happens is King Uther decides to say, you know what, we good. No more slaughtering the mages. It's over. Let peace reign at this point. Vortigern thinking to himself like, no, we can't let peace reign. I can't let him do this. So that's why he hugs. That's why he hugs Uther at the end, because he knew now I gotta kill him. I gotta take him out now. If I want to gain my power, if I want to be the ruler, the next ruler. Now I want to take this time out to show y'all something about Uther that he represents. He represents patriarch without a feminine presence, for real. Because you notice when you look at his throne room, it's just him on the throne. His queen doesn't have a throne. So he represents that masculine energy that doesn't uphold feminine energy. Because his wife is kind of in the background, you know, she's kind of far away. And he even says it when they walks into the room, am I saving y'all from each other? And he even goes so far to say, no, the only person I need saving from is you. So that's that masculine, that's that extreme masculine energy that he represented. He represented extremities of the masculine energy. And what happens next is the pendulum swung. And Vortigern, who represented extreme yin energy, led a coup against King Uther. And when he led this coup against King Uther, he then kills him. He kills him, kills his wife, and the little kid who would soon be King Arthur escapes on a boat. Now, this is where it gets interesting, seeing as how he killed King Uther. He was trying to kill King Uther. He didn't kill him right away. Actually, King Uther killed himself. He threw Excalibur in the sky, and then Excalibur stabbed him in the back, which I thought was mind-blowing, because this is how it got encased in stone. He literally used his life, the last of his life force, to encase Excalibur in rock. And this represented him becoming an ancestor, and him giving up his body to preserve this force, this power, which was encased in Excalibur. So that his son will one day, or the next ruler will one day have the power to fight this next overwhelming force that's about to happen. And the next overwhelming force was it came in the form of Vortigern. Seeing as how Uther represented the extreme masculine and the extreme yang energy, Vortigern represented the extreme feminine and yin energy when it's out of balance. So the pendulum swung. This is what happens when you don't have any balance. He also, he actually cared for his women, but he sacrificed them to gain power to these sirens on the ground. That was his blood sacrifice so that he could gain his powers. Now the movie goes on, and we get to we gonna just call him King Arthur. I don't remember his name before King Arthur right now. And Arthur is baby Arthur is right on the boat, and he's picked up by these prostitutes. Now, if King Arthur did not learn the lesson of respecting the feminine, this is the first lesson. I mean, King Uther didn't learn the lesson of respecting the feminine. Then this is the first lesson for King Arthur because he's the renewed bloodline now. He has the torch now, so he learns he learns about the feminine energy early on in his life because he was raised by prostitutes, and he learns to master his lower self first. Interestingly enough, because the first thing they taught him was how to pretty much collect money. Debt collection, I guess you could say, is what you could call it. You learn how to collect money, store money in the coffers, so they can always have a certain level of wealth in the slums, I guess you could say. That's what part of the country they was in. Next what happens is he starts to grow as a montage happens. Him growing up, him witnessing the prostitutes get beat on, which he could not stand. As a kid, him learning debt collection, him learning to master his lower self. He also comes into contact with martial arts, and he meets a kung fu master by the name of George. And later on, he will learn from him. As he grows older, interestingly enough, he stops people from beating on the prostitutes and actually forces them to pay more for beating on the prostitutes. When as time goes on, he develops his martial arts, develops his skills, develops his craft in debt collection, pretty much the skills of a rogue, you know, martial arts. He pretty much masters his lower self to his highest ability. Now, something changes when at some night, late one night, the soldiers start banging on the door looking for a particular criminal, and this particular criminal, I forget his name, but he was famous for escaping the prison. And what happens is he ended up being in that particular brothel. So Arthur rats him out, and they capture him, and then they sit down at the general sits down and talk to them about what's been going on. Now we catching fugitives at the brothel. We heard you fighting Vikings because he got to fighting with a Viking because the Viking beat on one of the prostitutes at this point, and he did not like it. So he went and did something about it, and they paid him. They paid her a year's worth of wages. So, and he explains all this to the general or whatever, and then the story goes on. Now, every journey of the hero has pretty much I guess you could say, a conflict arise where they're forced out of their normal life into this grand cosmic theme of things going on, or they're forced into the flow and the ways of the force, I guess you could say it. So now there's an event happen, and he had to escape. He meets these dudes, and they's like, have you been tested? Because Excalibur resurfaces because because as when he because Vortigern was building the new tower that they used to unleash the Dark Forces the first time, and Excalibur resurfaces, and he goes to the Sirens and asks, why Excalibur resurfaced now? And they said something very powerful in the movie. They said, the more you grow in power, the more the forces that oppose you grow as well. Because the law of balance cannot be transgressed or ignored. It cannot be ignored. And seeing as how Vortigern was only on one extreme, the other extreme awoken to stop him. So since he was negative, the positive reawoken to deal with it. So now Vortigern forces everybody of a certain age, every man of pretty much we gonna say voting age, to see could they pull Excalibur. None of them couldn't. So when Arthur had to escape his home, they find out he meets these dudes, these soldiers chilling, and they ask him hey, have you been tested yet? Cause I don't see a brand on you. He was like, oh no, I haven't been tested. I have never gotten around to it. He said, well, you thought you was going on a boat ride, cause he lied and said that he was a seaman or whatever, and you thought you was going on a boat ride, but now you got to go on a different kind of boat ride. So now Arthur is being led to his destiny. He's being led to the sword. Events have taken place at this point to where he's been forced to deal with his destiny, because Vortigern has gained all this overwhelming power, and he needs to be checked now. Because if he don't be checked, then he could destroy the country. So we get to the scene where everybody's trying to pull the sword. Arthur being impatient, he runs up to the sword and said, "Okay, what do I need to do?" As soon as he touches it, he was having visions of Vortigern, who was the monster at this point, who was the monster that killed his daddy. That's the power he gained from sacrificing his wife. He was having visions and dreams of this all his life up to this point. And what he did was, when he touched his sword, he felt the power, and it channeled through him. He was like, "Damn, what was that?" And it was one of the chief chief guards out there that was overseeing that said, "Nah, you gotta put it with two hands, because Arthur only pulled it with one." And when he pulled it, when he grabbed it with two hands, the force awoken, pretty much. The force of the sword awoken, because the rightful heir to the sword has now surfaced and came to claim it. So he pulls the sword out of the rock, and the force was so great it knocks him unconscious. And the force is so great, Vortigern was in his castle, doing what he do, looking over plans, and even he felt it. He was like, "Damn." So he goes outside to see what happened, and he finds out that Arthur has pulled the sword. Okay, Arthur wakes up, and he's looking at Vortigern. Vortigern explains to him, "So you the one that I've been looking for." And Arthur's like, "What the hell are you talking about? What you mean on the one?" He's like, "You pulled the sword, so that means you are the direct descendant of the Pendragon bloodline." He's like, and Arthur refusing at this point. He's like, "Nah, I was born in a brothel, cause I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we raided your brothel, and we see that you collected much wealth. You thrive in the gutters, in the slums. So imagine what would have happened if you inherited your father's kingdom and all of his riches and all of his advantages. you would have been hell on earth, pretty much is what Vortigern was telling him. But of course that didn't happen. Vortigern killed his father. So what happens next is Arthur's like, still nah, you still got me mistaken. It's still wrong. He's like, it don't matter. You pull the sword. The sword knows who the rightful ruler is. And so Arthur asks him, what happens next? He's like, oh, you know what happens next. You became a legend, and now I'm about to sacrifice you so the people know that I'm the true king. Next, it's pretty much I can skip to he had another conversation with him. They kill one. They abduct the prostitutes. They kill one of them, and they force him into a situation where he had to sacrifice himself, or they was gonna kill all the rest of the prostitutes and any of his friends that was part of their little group. Okay, so as he getting ready to be beheaded for the most part, a mysterious maid shows up, and the resistance that had been opposing Vortigern all this time shows up, and they save Arthur. Then his true journey of the hero begins. From this point on, he meets everybody. They wanted to see what he was about, what he could do with the sword, and he could actually do amazing things, but he still was reluctant to accept his destiny. So the maid said, you know what, we're going to have to take him to the Darklands, the spirit realm for the most part. So she's like, and old buddy was like, why we got to take him to the Darklands? We just got him. Now you trying to kill him already? We got to destroy his old self. That's what the maid said. And until we destroy his old self, he won't be able to think big. He won't be able to be the king that we all know he could be. So he goes to the Darklands to face his trials and to learn all about Excalibur, his past, and his destiny. So while he was in the Darklands, he seen some of the probably craziest shit he ever seen in his life. Giant bats, giant snakes, killer wolves, all type of crazy shit for the most part. Now he finally gets to the altar. He touches the altar, and he has a vision of what happened in his past and how Vortigern killed Uther and his mother. So now that he didn't have this vision, he didn't see everything though. That he seen what he needed to see for that moment. He didn't see everything. So he passed the trial for that time and came back to, the physical plane, the physical earth. And they went back. Arthur then meets up with his old friends, and they tell him what happened. And they basically tell him that Vortigern pretty much raided the place, destroyed everything. Pretty much destroyed everything he loved, took everything he had. So they asked him, "What you gonna do now?" He's like, "I'm gonna kill him. I gotta kill him. He killed my friends. He destroyed my homes. He took everything I ever knew and loved from me. So I gotta go get him now." So next, what happens is he tells the resistance his decision, and they pretty much start thinking up ideas to fight or rebel against Vortigern. They sink Vortigern's ships. They even tried to assassinate him, and they blew up his castle. They did all type of things to him. Next, what happened is when they do all that, Vortigern, doing an assassination attempt, said, "All right, we got a spy. There's no way in hell they knew all this about me without having somebody to let them know what was going on." And they find out that one of the ladies in his house was a spy for the resistance. So he was locked up after the assassination attempt. The assassination attempt goes horribly wrong, and they pretty much on the run for their life at this point. Then they running, and then they finally run back into George, the kung fu master, who taught Arthur in his when he was growing up, and they pinned down, and Arthur like, all right, let's escape through this tunnel here. Let's escape through this tunnel, and everybody like, nah, we about to fight. Forget this, no more running. He was like, y'all must be crazy. We outnumbered. He's like, forget that, and y'all all be killed. Everybody was like, nah, forget all that. We gonna fight. So they decided to fight, and while they in the midst of fighting the soldiers, Arthur looking around like, damn, this shit got crazy. And then just so happened he looked and he see that they done grabbed the mage and holding the mage at pretty much knife point, cause they had a knife to her neck. And that's when Arthur snaps, grabs the sword with two hands, and unleashes the force of the sword. Even though the sword was using him, he unleashed the raw power of the sword and pretty much took out every soldier in the vicinity. The people watching this said, "Oh snap, he the true king. He is a true king." Not only did he draw the sword, he just took out a whole army of people just at the swing of it. So pretty much the people in the city rebel against Vortigern from this point on. And the mage tells him like, nah, you no longer just a legend, you a symbol now. Cause he's a symbol. At this point, people see what he can do, and they know that he is a true and rightful king. So now he's still having trouble with the swords because he hasn't seen everything he needs to see. But he's getting better at it. And what happens next is they still running on the run, and one of his friends they capture and kills. They capture, and he pretty much dies. I won't say they killed him, but he did get wounded while doing the assassination attempt, and he dies. And pretty much Arthur has what you would like to call, in his depression and his rage and his grief, seeing all his friends die and everything taken away from him, he pretty much don't want this destiny no more. He's like, man, forget this. I can't even do this no more. I lost so much already. I don't even want to do this. So he goes to a lake, and he throws the sword in the lake, and he runs as hard as he could, but the sword still calling him to his destiny. Still calling him to his destiny. And no matter how hard he runs and how far he gets, the sword's vibrations get louder and louder. And what happens is it got so strong he just fell to his knees, and then he punched. The area that he's in was real wet, swampy like, and he punched into the pretty much the swamp like area. And next thing he know, somebody grabs him, and it's the lady of the lake, and she pulls him down into the ocean, which is the point where I like to stop right there and tell y'all what's going on. When he pulled the sword out the first time, he unlocked he had his first awakening and unlocked his spiritual power here on the physical plane. Now this time, the lady of the lake pulls him into the water, the subconscious. Water represents the subconsciousness most of the time in movies. And she pulls him into the subconscious world, and she represents that feminine energy that resides over your subconscious mind, the darkness, And She pulls him in there and she tells him, like, look here. If you don't take this sword and do what you need to do, this is what Vortigern is gonna do. And she showed him just straight calamity. It was Armageddon for the most part. It was hell on earth. People was heartbroken. The city was decimated, destroyed. Dark entities ruled because he had been checked. He just, this is what happens when dark energy don't go unchecked, or any energy that doesn't go unchecked or have any balance. It just becomes destructive at the end of the day. So she shows him this, and then when he comes back, he pulls the sword out the water, which represents that he's accepted his magical metaphysical power now. Cause he just seen the future. He just went and learned from the later late. So when he unleashes his magical power, he holds the sword up in the air and he yells. Cause this is his second awakening. He had the first awakening, now he on his second awakening. Then his teammates, they come find him and said, now what we gonna do? He said, well, we gonna take the castle now. I'm ready now. We can go do this. We can go in on Vortigern now. And so what happens next is they sit there. Now what happens next is they get back, and Vortigern has found out where their base is, and he slaughtered everybody. And he's also taking the mage. So Arthur comes up with a cool plan. He said, now go and take him Excalibur and trade Excalibur for the mage, because later Lake told him to trust the mage. So he knew that the mage was more important than Excalibur at this point. So the leader of the resistance, he goes and delivers the sword to Vortigern, and he said he a day's ride away from here. And he said, and Vortigern says, okay, tomorrow be here, or everybody he knows and loves dies. So so he delivers the mage back. The mage then do something very interesting. She allows a snake. The snake represents Kundalini at this point. This is Kundalini energy. The snake flows up his right arm and then bites him on the neck. And she said, with this venom, you will be able to see things you wouldn't normally see, but at the same time, you will also be protected. So now she just fully awoken his third eye to see things even on the physical plane, not just the spiritual plane. Because at all this time, he's only been dealing with the metaphysical world, and now all this time he's only been dealing with the metaphysical world and unleashing his raw power. But now he's learned how to use his sight even on the physical plane. That's what this represented. That's why she bit him on the neck, because that represents the throat chakra, truth. He see the truth now, and now he has the consciousness to deal with this truth. So he rides through the forest, which I thought was cool, and he sees the spirits of the forest. The spirit of the tree, which was a lady which was a lady wrapped in vines, pretty much. We can say he's seeing nature spirits at this point, or nature in and of herself, Gaia, you can say. And he rides, he gets there, and he walks through the door. And Vortigern ain't even wasting no time. Get him on his knees, and let's kill him. But what they didn't see was the snake come in behind him, and the snake goes off into the darkness, and it wraps around the pole, getting ready to bite Vortigern. And Vortigern sensed the snake, and then he turns around and just slices the snake's head off, and blood spills on him, and some of his men actually. Next thing you know, the mage summons the giant snake that we seen earlier. The giant snake represents cosmic wisdom, by the way, universal wisdom, and it just runs rampant through the castle and pretty much kills everybody except for Vortigern and Arthur that was in the castle. So then, pretty much a revolution happens at this point. Arthur goes out, takes back Excalibur, whoops ass. He whoops ass. He beat the shit out of them soldiers. And at the same at the same time, the leader of the resistance, he goes and frees everybody that was there, and all of them pick up swords and weapons, take arms, and they storm the castle for the most part. Now Arthur goes to the tower. The tower represents the Tower of Babel, the magical tower that was built to reach the heavens, and and this angel came down and destroyed it. This so-called angel entity came down and destroyed the tower, and then that's when he confused the language of man because man had got too powerful. So this guy was jealous of that. This is not the universal God in the Bible. This is a whole another type of God. And he was jealous of what humanity was doing, and humanity wasn't even doing anything wrong. He just never liked humanity from the first place. So so he destroys the Tower of Babel, and then he confuses the language of everybody in the world. So now everybody who has a separate language pretty much forms their own tribe, go their separate ways, and spread across the earth. That's pretty much the story of the Tower of Babel. That's what this tower represents. So technically, in this story, it's already been destroyed once. So he rebuilds it, and to gain the same power Mordred did, which was pure dark power from what I've seen. We haven't seen it used for good purposes yet in this particular story. So Arthur enters the tower, and automatically the sword activates and transports him to an arena. And who he sees is this entity that he's been seeing in his dreams and visions all along, but it was actually Vortigern after he sacrifices his wife, and at this point he sacrificed his daughter to gain this power again so he could defeat Arthur. But strangely enough, he says, "You won." So I don't even know why he would even take the time out of his day, but he was so power hungry, he said, "Fuck it. It's all in, and now it's all or nothing at this point." So next what he does is he goes on to they battle. Arthur's pretty much at this point getting his ass kicked. Cause he's never fought anything like this. So he gets defeated the first time. He passes out, and then it pretty much kicks him back to when he pretty much goes back to the time when he was a kid, and start having another vision of this time period. And his daddy was like, "Come on, cuz, you gotta open your eyes. That's why you ain't harnessing Excalibur to its full power." Which I like to note that there were 3 stages, cause on Excalibur there was this ancient writing, and they were split up into 3 particular groups of we're gonna say sigils or whatever, magical sigils. Now up until this point, unless Excalibur activated itself, when he drew it from the rock, he only activated the first set of sigils. Then by the time he fought the soldiers, he activated the second set of sigils. Well, now this is his last and final test to fully activate Excalibur and the third sigil and unleash Excalibur's full power. But before he could do that, he has to fully accept what he sees is what it is. Cause all this time he's been keeping his eyes closed, and he only seen what he wanted to see. When he opened his eyes again, he seen what actually happened and what it really is. Cause that's what reality is. Reality, even though we would like to change things, sometimes we can't. We have to just accept it for what it is, whether it's positive or negative, according to our life and path. So when he finally looked and seen what happened, he literally cocked the sword before it stabbed his daddy in the back and saved his daddy. He's freeing his ancestor at this point. That was the third test. The first test was unlocking his spiritual power. The second test was unlocking his magical power. The third test is unlocking his ancestral power. So and his daddy passes the torch down to him officially at this point. So now he's the official heir to Excalibur and the Kingdom of Camelot. So now he unleashes the full power of Excalibur. And he comes back and fights Vortigern. Now he says how he unleashes the full power and knows who he is at this point. He opens up a dialogue with Vortigern. He said, you know, you asked me once upon a time, why am I so driven? And I like to answer that now. The reason why I was so driven all this time is because of you. Because Vortigern actually represents King Arthur's dark side. Yes, this is King Arthur's journey of the hero. So all his life, Vortigern, which was his dark side, has been hunting him. So now he has to defeat Vortigern, and they go into an epic battle. And he said a very powerful line. He said, "You created me," because the sirens had told him that the more you grow in power, the more the forces that oppose you grow in power. So Vortigern created him through his lust for power. So he kills him. He kills Vortigern, and he thanks Vortigern like he should have, cause Vortigern created. If it weren't for Vortigern, he wouldn't have been the man he was at that point. So he goes back, destroys the tower, and then he pretty much becomes the new king of Camelot. So that's pretty much the major decoding of it. This was his journey of the hero. He creates the Knights of the Round Table, the new Jedi of this time period. He knights his friends, whatever. He even befriends the Viking after he lets them know, like, nah, you're no longer dealing with the old ruler, you're dealing with a new ruler now. So this is a new cycle. That's what he was telling them. So for the most part, this was a great movie. This was an awesome movie to watch. So go check it out if you hadn't seen it. And this is MCJ Network, and I'm out.